We've got 7 here, but in fact, there's always one missing, inevitably. Vainglory. So, 7 or 8? Well, there are 7 deadly sins. One of these is the odd man out, and it's not vainglory. It is pride. That's the odd one out. So, what's the difference between pride and vainglory? In fact, vainglory often gets left off of lists. You won't find it in modern day lists. If you look on Wikipedia, they consider it like a forgotten one, along with Acadia or Acedia, as we'll talk about later. But this may go back to even Dante. Dante's Inferno, Dante's Divine Comedy. The Divine Comedy is actually a 3-part trilogy. It's Inferno, which is hell, Purgatorio, which is purgatory, and Paradiso, which is heaven. And in Dante's Inferno, going back to the 1300s here, he doesn't even include vainglory, as you can see here, right there, the proud. He includes the prideful, but he does not include those who are vainglorious. So what's the big deal? Why vainglory? In fact, there's a book out there called Vainglory, the Forgotten Vice. So for classical 7 deadly sins, we're talking, starting with the tradition that began in the 300s and 400s that went through St. Gregory in the 500s and 600s, and then went all the way through Aquinas in the 1200s and was solidified in church doctrine at that point. That tradition includes vainglory in every single one of its iterations and includes pride in every single one of its iterations. Well, how could they both be included? Well, it's because this. Vainglory is included among the 7 deadly sins. Pride is considered not one of the canonical 7, but as the root to all other deadly sins. Well, what's the difference, again, between vainglory and pride? They kind of just seem the same. Well, let's actually look. I've got a handout here between vainglory and pride. As you can see here, the actual Latin word for vainglory is vanagloria. Breaks into 2 words, van glory, of course, vainglory, right? But an interesting fact about that prefix, vana, it is the same thing as van, or if you like, wan, right? Because in Germanic languages, the W is pronounced with a V sound, van. If you look up the prefix van, or van, if you like, van or van, this means a lack of something, or, if you like, without something. In other words, it's almost used like the prefix D in English language, or non, or in, those prefixes. So it means lack of or without something. It's a negation of the thing that follows. So without glory. In fact, you can see this interestingly in a Middle English word called van hope, and this is still present in a modern Dutch word called van hoop. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I don't speak Dutch. Both of these mean despair. Because you can see here, van, lack of hope in both cases. And in fact, that word there, despair, comes from, as I said, that D prefix means kind of the same thing as van, lack of, a negation of. The spare part comes from the Latin word spes, which means hope. So that's just the Latin form of van hope, despair, right? Lack of hope. They both mean the exact same thing. So, if vainglory, we know van means lack of something, okay, lack of glory or without glory. What does that mean? Well, first of all, what does glory mean? It's one of those sort of nebulous things, glory, honor, you can't really define it, but if I were to say to you, glory is that sort of thing that if you go and compete in the Olympics, you win glory for your country, right? What would that mean? Well, glory is something like renown, recognition. You're earning some sort of approval, right? That's glory. And in fact, that's just true glory, right? It's well earned, assuming you didn't dope and cheat to win in the Olympics. It's true glory, is well earned glory. This means, well, what is lack of glory? Vainglory. It's wanting the glory, but not working for it, not doing the hard work. As vainglory is a keen desire for attention and approval, self-conceit, nearby vices, boastfulness, hypocrisy. You can see the Greek word kenodoxia can transmit the same kind of meaning, because keno means empty and doxia means belief, as in orthodox, doxology, and so on. Empty belief. This means that you want people to believe something about you, but it's all empty underneath. There's no substance. You haven't really actually done anything. So, this is what vainglory is. Necessarily, then, vainglory is needing other people to approve of you. You need that out of this. It's this need from you, but you need other people to approve. Well, isn't that kind of pride? No. Pride, for its part, is self-love. Or, if you like, better put, self-preference. And we see that pride, if it's the root that we get from Gregory and from Aquinas, who identified it as the root of the 7 deadly sins, then this means, if this is truly the root, it leads to all the other deadly sins. So, self-preference, and you can kind of just work through these yourself. Go think back to your list. Well, how could pride lead to lust? Well, certainly pride can lead to lust because, again, not self-love, but self-preference. Like it's I who want the thing, right? Or even greed. It's me. I prefer me to have the thing, right? But it can even lead, interestingly, to wrath. Pride can, self-preference. Because think of an example. Say, an example of road rage. You're driving, somebody cuts you off, and you just fly into a fit of rage. Well, that's an example of wrath, but how's that example, first and foremost, of pride? Because, well, they cut you off. They took your spot, right? You wouldn't have been wrathful if they didn't offend you. You could have just been more humble, self-deprecating. You could have just given them the benefit of the doubt, think, oh, maybe they were speeding to the hospital or something. But no, you got wrathful because it was you and your time they wasted, your spot they took, right? So you could easily see how pride can transform into even vainglory, right? Because, of course, vainglory is one of the 7. Pride is the root of all 7. So pride could easily lead to vainglory, right? So if I have self-love, self-preference as a prideful person, I might just want other people to know that. I just need the attention. I need people to approve of that. However, you can still have pride without vainglory, interestingly, because you can have the root without it necessarily leading to wanting people. Maybe you think, you're hot stuff, but you don't really care for other people to approve. You just kind of know it, and you don't need the approval, but maybe the pride leads to something else. So that is the difference between pride and vainglory.